Today I'm going to be reading to you the first chapter of my new book, Diana and the Island of No Return. Author Aisha Saeed. It's a book of my secret adventures, which I'll be sharing a little bit with you today. Chapter 1. When Diana looked back upon this day, she would remember many things. The way the sun beat down upon her where she sat, perched on the highest branch of the largest olive tree jutting out from the cliffs of Themyscira. The laughter of the women beneath her setting up tents and stalls for the Chara festival. The gardeners hurriedly sweeping leaves from the pathways and trimming the last of the rose bushes surrounding her palace home. This was also the day her life would completely change forever. Of course, at that moment, Diana had no idea of the danger that lay in wait for her a few short hours later. This particular afternoon, she craned her neck, searching the horizon for the ships that would soon arrive. Time always felt like it slowed down the more she looked forward to something, but she couldn't help feeling excited about this week. Her best friend, Sakina, was almost here. Visitors were rare on Themyscira. Her mother, Queen Hippolyta, had created their nation as a safe place, far from the world of men and all their war and strife. The women who lived on the island were here, in part, because they did not wish to be found. The Chara festival was the one exception to this rule. In a little while, their island nation of jagged cliffs, stone temples, and sweeping seaside vistas would fill with the most esteemed women in the world. Leaders, artists, welders, carpenters, and fierce warriors from distant lands. As always, there would be no men. They were strictly prohibited on Themyscira. Diana had never met one in real life. Her mother would stay busy in the evenings with world leaders for much of the week, but Diana loved exploring the tented stalls to try out the latest technology in steel plate armor, or to gaze in wonder at the pottery and paintings artisans had brought with them from around the world. Last summer was the first year Sakina and Diana were allowed to take part in lessons offered by experts in their respective specialties. Sewing, welding, woodwork. The girls tried them all. Diana remembered the wooden dolls with the matching lopsided grins they'd carved. She still laughed anytime she saw the creation resting on her bedroom shelf. A battle cry sounded in the distance. Diana glanced at the grassy coliseum shaded by a grove of olive trees at the island's center. Columns with marble statues of the goddesses Athena, Artemis, and Hera gazed down on the Amazon warriors who, with swords drawn, were finishing the last of their martial arts lessons before the festival was to begin. A familiar, wistful tug pulled at Diana's heart as she watched the women swivel and twirl with their weapons like graceful dancers in silver and bronze plate armor. More than anything in the world, she longed to train alongside them. Just then, a bird trilled near her ears. "Mira!" Diana exclaimed. The creature was blue as the ocean, with glue-tipped wings and ruby-red tail that fanned out like a peacock's. She belonged to Sakina. The bird served as their messenger, shuttling notes to and fro while the girls were apart. The bird settled on Diana's lap and blinked her silvery eyes. At night, they shone like beams through the dark skies. The girls had had many adventures through the island's forest last summer, with Mira's eyes shining the way. Diana smiled. If the bird was here, studying the horizon with her, it meant that Sakina's ship could not be too far behind. Diana looked back at the island. A flash of gold glinted in the distance. Her eyes widened. It was Celinda and Yen, the newest warriors to arrive on the island. They wore red metallic masks and gold plate armor, which meant only one thing. They were headed to the island's edge to guard Doom's doorway. The plain concrete barrier separated Themyscira from the sinister underworld, ruled by the god Hades. The Amazons were tasked with the important duty of guarding it and keeping the creatures and lost souls who were meant to stay within the underworld from escaping. Scrambling from the tree, Diana swept down the stone steps etched into the cliff, past the women setting up a weaponry display beneath the white tent, and over to the two warriors. "What are you doing?" Diana demanded once she caught up to them. "Hello to you too," Yen replied. She tucked a strand of dark hair behind her ear. At 6 feet tall, both Celinda and Yen towered over Diana. Heading to the door, we're relieving Lisbeth and Cajole. But it can't be your turn already. You were there last week. The Queen asked for volunteers, Celinda said. What about the festival? Everyone wants to attend, Yen shrugged. We figured as the newest, we should be the ones to take an extra shift. You don't understand. The Char Festival is incredible, Diana insisted. You can't miss your first one. The bazaar does seem like fun, Celinda said. She slid her mask from her face and looked wistfully at the stalls. From where they stood, the many tables extended beyond their line of sight. In a few hours, they would be filled with weaponry, artwork, and clothing from around the world. It's not just the bazaar, Diana said. As recent arrivals, the two women were still learning how to battle and fight. There are classes and workshops on all sorts of things. Aunt Antiope is teaching a sword fighting masterclass this year. You know the Kita hold you've been working on? She's doing a whole day of lessons on it for the visitors. Lucky for us, we're not visitors, Yen smiled. We'll work on it once we're back from our duties. Sweet of you to be concerned, but there will be other Char festivals in the years to come. Take notes for us? Celinda asked, especially on what the most popular weapon is these days. Yen and I have a bet going. The most popular? Diana scoffed. It's better to focus on what the best weapon is, and that's easy. She walked to the weaponry table and lifted a bronze sword. The butterfly sword? I thought you'd point out the lamina. Cinderella cocked her head to the side. The jagged edge on that one is 3 times as long. That's the problem with it. It's too long. The butterfly is lighter than any other, which keeps you fast on your feet. Diana lifted the sword and flung it skyward. It twirled like an acrobat. Diana grabbed it and sliced an X into the air. Point taken. Yen raised her hands and laughed. We don't ever want to be on your bad side. Diana, a familiar voice interrupted them. Diana lowered the sword. Her smile faded. Her mother, Queen Hippolyta, approached the 3 of them and crossed her arms. She wore her usual golden dress paired with golden plate armor, her blonde hair swept up as it always was, and a mixture of exasperation and disappointment in her bright blue eyes. This was usual, too. She was only showing us her favorite weapon, Yen hurriedly said. It was completely innocent. It always is, her mother said. Diana walked back to the table and set the sword down. Her mother didn't say anything more. She didn't need to. They'd had the conversation so many times, Diana had practically memorized it. And yet, no explanation her mother gave her made any sense. How could Diana live among the Amazon warriors, the fiercest fighters in the world, and not be allowed to train beyond the basics? The frustration burned inside her. Are you ready for duty? Her mother asked them. You both did an excellent job last time. It's an honor to serve, Celinda beamed. The doors stayed shut as long as I've been alive, Diana insisted. Maybe they could leave their post for a little while today. An hour or 2, just to take a peek at the festival. It's our responsibility to guard the passage to the underworld, her mother said. And as dull as it can feel sometimes, preventing a problem is less troublesome than fixing one. Update us on everything when we return? Celinda ruffled Diana's hair. Diana nodded and promised she would, and Yen winked as they left to report for duty. Once the warriors were out of earshot, Diana swiveled to her mother. You didn't have to embarrass me in front of them, she said. I was only holding the weapon. And twirling it in the air. Diana, you're not supposed to handle unfamiliar weapons, especially those ones on the table. But did you see me with it? Diana insisted. Both Celinda and Yen were impressed. Be that as it may, you are not equipped to use it. Then maybe it's time to let me train, Diana countered. Diana, her mother sighed. Not this again. Why not? I'm 12, not 2. It's about time I'm allowed. You have trained plenty. Your aunt taught you all the basics, and you even have a weapon of your own. This lousy sword, it won't hurt a fly. Diana gestured to the silver weapon sheathed at her waist. She decorated the hilt with emeralds a few days earlier, but it didn't change the fact that it was still an unremarkable sword. Besides, I want to know more than the basics. How can I live on an island of Amazons and not be a warrior? That's precisely why you don't need to be one, her mother said. She rested a hand on Diana's shoulder. You don't know what some of these women have seen, the tragedies and scars that brought them to Themyscira. You were born here, safe and secure from the dangers of this world. But what if something happened here, and if anything were to happen, we have plenty of fully trained warriors on hand to help us. Time is a gift, Diana. Use it for other things. Sharpen your mind. Focus on things that matter. Diana knew her mother wouldn't budge, but her stomach still twisted with disappointment. She studied the golden cuffs around her wrists, the same ones worn by all the Amazons in Themyscira. Even if there's no practical need to train, Diana said, why isn't my wanting to reason enough? The queen studied her for a moment. Diana, she finally said, I love you. You know that, don't you? I love you so much, I formed you out of clay myself. I don't enjoy keeping you from your dreams. Perhaps when you're older, we will discuss this again, when you can understand more about who you are. Who am I? Diana said with a start. This was new. I shouldn't have said anything. Her mother looked away. Please, Mother, Diana pleaded. Is there some reason you haven't shared with me for why you don't want to train me? The festival is about to begin, Queen Hippolyta said gently. After the week concludes, you and I can have a long conversation and... The boats! A woman cried out. Diana shifted her gaze. Ships were, at last, pulling up to the docks. Hulking vessels swaying in the ocean, waves sloshing against their sides. More of them filled the bright horizon in the distance, their sails all different colors, crimson, blue, yellow, and white, and fluttering against the wind. An advisor approached her mother and whispered in the queen's ear. Diana pushed away her disappointment. The moment was over. Walking over to the wooden docks that stretched into the sea, Diana scanned the insignias of the arriving ships. She recognized many of them from years past. There was the mortar and pestle stitched on the Ruhas sails. They were a healing community to the south. The welders of Belton had pulled in as well, a brazing rod tinged with red etched into the side of their hull. At last, Diana found the ship she was searching for, the white sail embroidered with a golden quill and an unfurled scroll. Diana smiled. It was the scholars' ship. The scholars were the keepers of the world's vastest libraries and proudly boasted the most competitive, higher learning institutions. Sakina was among their people. Well, look who it is, a voice called out. Sakina emerged from the boat. Her dark hair was pulled back and she wore a maroon tunic, golden leggings, and brown leather boots laced to her knees. Waving to Diana, she hurried toward her. The girls embraced. I seriously thought summer would never come, Sakina exclaimed, pulling back. I swear it took triple the time for this week to arrive. I felt the exact same way, Diana said. Even an ocean apart, we're still on the same wavelength, huh? No surprise there, Diana laughed. Sakina glanced down at Diana's brown belt. New sword? She asked. I wish, Diana said. It's the same one as last time. I added these jewels to mix things up. Nice. I'm a sucker for emeralds. A mischievous look glinted in Sakina's brown eyes. And aren't you going to say anything about my new sword? Sure enough, Sakina had a leather belt strapped around her waist, much like Diana. A golden hilt poked out from her right side. Really? Diana exclaimed. Your parents let you have a sword? Yep. I've been begging for one ever since last summer. And watch this! Sakina pulled out her bronze sword and flicked her wrist. Out of the hilt of the sword popped a quill. It's basically perfect, don't you think? You can write and fight with it. Well, the pen is mightier than the sword, Diana laughed. You think you could teach me a thing or two about how to use it? Sakina asked. I got it right before we left. I'd love to, Diana said. She looked at Sakina's weapon and then at her friend. I can't believe it's been a whole year since we last saw each other. Oh, tell me about it. And look at you. You haven't changed a bit. But you have, Diana realized with a start. They'd always been about the same height, but standing next to her now, Diana saw that Sakina had shot up since their last meeting. She was half a foot taller than Diana. Her dark curls, which fell below her chin last summer, were braided down to her waist. Her tanned arms looked unmistakably muscled. Diana glanced down at her own skinny arms. Between the two of them, people could mistake which one was descended from warriors. Something soft brushed against Diana's leg. Whoa! She jumped back. Sorry, it's just silly Arya, Sakina said. She's really into the element of surprise lately. This is your kitty? Diana looked at the spotted snow leopard and petted her gently. The cat came up to Diana's hip. I could scoop her up with one hand last summer. They grow super fast, but she's as much a cuddlebug as she ever was. Sakina looked around. Is Binti nearby? Arya's been asking about her since we left. They had so much fun together last summer. She had babies, Diana said, warming at the thought of her wolf companion and her pups. She's resting up. Babies! Sakina's eyes lit up. They're the cutest wolf pups ever, Diana said. A thought occurred to her. Sakina was a scholar, but she also had a special ability to speak with animals. Actually, Binti's been acting strange the past few days. Maybe you can chat with her and see what's going on. Sakina, the animal whisperer, at your service. She winked and curtsied. Suddenly, the snow leopard froze. Her ears pressed flat against her head. Narrowing her eyes, she raised her tail in the air and growled. Binti's not the only one acting strange. Sakina rolled her eyes. Easy, Arya. You seriously need to relax. The cat turned to Sakina and rumbled a deep-throated growl. What's the matter? Diana asked. Goosebumps suddenly trailed her arms. She watched the animal's tense expression. Don't get me started, Sakina shook her head. She was fine when we left, but mid-voyage she got all riled up, snarling and growling in thin air. All cats are little divas, but Arya is the queen of them all. What's she been saying? Diana asked. She's mad about the ships en route with us to your land, Sakina said. Kept saying they're following us. Of course they're following us. I know it's strange to see a line of ships heading in one direction out on the open seas, but we're all using the same special coordinates to find Themyscira. Sorry, Arya. Diana apologized to the animal. Nobody likes to feel like they're being followed. Arya circled the girls. Diana studied the animal's raised hackles and the hard look in her eyes. Following the animal's gaze to the docked ships, a chill passed through Diana. Ever since she was young, Diana felt connected to animals, and though she couldn't put it into words, Arya's distress seemed deeper than the ships that followed them here. What exactly did the snow leopard think she saw? Princess Diana, dear, Sakina's mother, Queen Khadija, approached them. So lovely to see you. She kissed Diana's cheek. The queen wore a cream-colored gown with flowers embroidered along the hem. Mira fluttered alongside her and landed on Sakina's shoulder. Wonderful to see you, Your Majesty, Diana said. Excited for your week together? She asked the girls. We are, Sakina nodded. And are you ready for all your boring meetings? In due time, her mother smiled. Tonight we rest and enjoy. Tomorrow we work. Has Arya calmed down at all? Not really, Sakina shook her head. She's still acting like there's a monster about to swoop down any minute. She'll adjust, her mother said. There are quite a lot of new people here. Indeed, more and more people filled the island, walking down long gangplanks from the newly docked ships. They hoisted banners and carried trunks and carts filled with goods from their homelands. You know how protective she's always been, Diana added as they began walking toward the main festival site. Even as a kitten, she loved to guard you. You have no idea. She's totally out of control now, Sakina groaned. Ever since I started apprenticing at the library, she refuses to let me go alone. So now I have a huge cat prowling past periodicals to protect me from dust mites. She just loves you, the queen said. She's not even as fierce as she thinks, Sakina said. Half the time she's snoring by the sunny window near the reference desk. You're working at the library? Diana stared at Sakina. Yes, I was going to tell you all about it. Can you believe it? Sakina grinned. That's wonderful. Diana managed to say. She was happy for her friend, truly. Sakina had wanted an apprenticeship at the library for as long as Diana could remember. Over the years, they'd spent countless nights sharing their frustrations about not being able to do the things they loved most. She was after me about it for quite some time, her mother said. I finally decided to let her try it so she could see how boring the work truly is. But I must hand it to her. She's taken to it well. She's a natural. A natural. Diana's throat constricted. Was this a part of her mother's hesitation with letting her train? Maybe her mother was trying to find a way to tell Diana that there was no need for her to learn because she wasn't a natural fighter at all. Diana glanced at the tents around her. Women set down sculpted vases and painted bowls. Silk dresses hung from hooks and fluttered in the breeze. Diana couldn't sculpt. She couldn't paint. She was not able to heal people with her words or herbs. The one thing she wanted to do was be a true warrior, like the legendary Amazon warriors she lived alongside. That was who she had always believed she was meant to be. But now, with a sinking heart, Diana wondered if maybe she was wrong. And that's the end of chapter 1. You'll have to get the book for yourself if you want to read more.